Welcome everyone to Male Fuzz TV. I am Peter, that is Tara, and we are going to talk about Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 10. It is called The Last Generation. It is the final episode of the show, as well as the season, obviously, and very likely the last episode in which you'll ever see the Next Generation crew together. Because this is probably it. Now, will some of them probably cameo in future Trek shows on their own? Here or there, probably. They'll be too tempted. They're not going to stay away. But all of them together, especially on an Enterprise D bridge, come on, this is it. Like, this is your last hurrah. So, we'll get into everything. Yes. So yes, they go off to defeat the Borg. They defeat the Borg, and then there's like 10 epilogues. That's my quick summary of the episode. Tara, how did you feel about this final episode?
I thought it was so okay. Like I liked it. I didn't feel the emotions that I did like the previous episode. For all the nostalgia stuff, because it really felt like let's just hurry up and end this so that we can get to the epilogues. Yeah,
the actual conflict just felt really easy to deal with, and
yeah, I was getting so many like vibes of Star Wars in it, you know, like there's some Rise of Skywalker going on in here. There's a lot of Return of the Jedi in this.
Well, I mean, we've been saying that it made a lot of sense for the big emotional climax to be Picard having to appeal to Jack's humanity and be like, I'm your father. This is also a Star Wars line, funnily enough. But, you know, I'm your father and I love you and come back to us and, like, don't be a Borg.
You don't need the collective. We're your family. Yeah.
Like
Starfleet can be your family.
We knew that was coming, and the moment was done well. That's the weird thing about this, is that, and why it's perfectly fine, is that it ticks all the boxes that it needs to tick and no more. Like that's really how I would describe this episode, is that it does everything it has to do, but it also feels like it's doing the bare minimum in every way that it has to do. And then there's one or two other little things that's kind of like, you know, Data flying the ship through the Borg cube felt like it wasn't a Star Trek scene. That felt like you say, it felt like Return of the Jedi. It felt like the
it felt like the Falcon.
Yeah. So like there's definitely some little things like that feel like not very Star Trek-y that are kind of in here. But I suppose they kind of fit in. A lot of the movies have moments like that because they've always struggled to have the movies feel like the TV show. You know, they've always struggled because they feel like they have to go bigger and bolder. And these modern shows feel more akin to the movies than they do the actual TV shows.
Yeah, they sure do.
So, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I did like seeing Jack in the proper Borg outfit, because, you know, as much as we've swerved into Borg being the main threat, we've not actually seen just a regular Borg walking around in a while, and it was kind of nice to see. Yes,
I thought he looked all right. I mean, I was happy to see the look the way it did. He looked a little like Universal Soldier to me in the suit. But I didn't hate it. I think maybe because his skin was still like flesh toned and not grayed out, that he looked more like, you know, something from another science fiction property. But I appreciate, you know, the face piece at least.
I wonder if that was an intentional choice because he's like organically kind of Borg, so he doesn't get changed as much.
Yeah, they don't really need to do too much to him, I suppose.
Yeah.
Just change the outfit.
They just need to jack in, basically, and get him going.
Yep.
Oh, you laugh because his name's Jack. I did not mean that, but yes, very good. Yes. Yeah. So, yeah, the Enterprise crew come and Picard, Worf, and Riker beam onto the cube to go find Jack and find out where the... You know, there's like a MacGuffin power source that's sending out the signal to control all the Borg drones that are out in the fleet. So they'd have to find that. And of course, it means destroying the cube, which means everyone's probably going to die and they have to make the tough choices. So we have these dramatic moments, even though we all know that no one's actually going to die, right?
I thought maybe Picard would, since it's the end of his series and he's got his, you know, his name is passing on.
I don't know, for some reason I just didn't feel like they had the balls to do it. It kind of felt a little too sweet for them to actually go through with it.
Maybe they're just like, hey, you already died at the end of season 1. We don't have to do it again.
And we've already killed Data multiple times. You know, like, the deaths have no meaning at this point, so let's not pretend.
It didn't seem like Data would really be in. I guess when he took the ship into the Borg cube, there was a chance. But we know he was going to be successful. That everyone just needed to trust him, and that was going to work out. But I don't know. I thought maybe Picard wouldn't make it out, but he would have a moment where he would save Jack.
Yeah, I did like Data saying that this should be impossible. But my gut says I can do it, and the way he paused before he said "my gut," because you know what he was about to say, and I think that made the moment work well enough. I also appreciate that Picard chooses to jack in to the collective to talk to Jack. It never occurred to me that would be how he would talk to him before, but it actually makes a lot of sense that would be how he could communicate with them, is by actually connecting back up with the collective. So
the thing that he has been running away from for a long time and thought he was all behind him, and but still haunts him, and he was willing to do it for his son, no problem. And it was actually kind of hard to watch because he's so old, and we love Picard. It looks like he's going through a lot of pain when he does it. I thought that was kind of effective with the whole watching him go through it was kind of difficult.
Yeah, and his speech isn't really getting through to Jack until he says he'll stay with them, and that's kind of the convincing moment where Jack, maybe for the first time, genuinely feels love from Picard. Which, admittedly, Picard saying "you've changed my life" with a teary eye is I don't know if we've really spent enough time with them together to believe that Picard's full on "I love you" like a father mode yet. But you know what? This is the final episode. We have to just be here now because it's time. And Jack rips everything off. He disconnects, and they beam out the last second. There is a little bit of a joke here about how so Geordi's left in charge, and he tells Beverly she's going to have to manually fire the weapons because he's not had time to rig everything up to be automatic or whatever, and she just does it without a second's notice, and everyone on the bridge just kind of turns and looks like, what the hell, how do you know how to do that without any explanation? And she's just like, a lot's happened in 20 years, which I would almost complain that this was an easy cop out for the writers, except for the fact that it ties into the first episode of this season where she was doing all this shooty bang bang stuff that felt really out of character. So at least it connects with that.
The only thing I didn't really like with Beverly is earlier when Data wants to be a part of the away mission, and she says no. There's no one who wants to tear them apart limb to limb more than me, which I thought was a weird sentence coming from her, because she is I still see her as Dr. Beverly Crusher, the one who helps the enemy because they need medical assistance still. And and also those are Geordi's kids over there that she wants to tear apart limb to limb. They're not really Borg because they can come back still. So I thought that was a weird sentence from her.
Yeah, because we have established that they can be kind of saved and reverted back to what their original state, effectively.
Right.
So, yeah.
And even the last episode, they're like, "That's our family over there. Those are our children. We're going to save them." She's like, "I want to rip them apart."
Yeah, how did you feel about Data being like, "They've caused so much pain. I hate them"?
I didn't mind it. I think it's interesting, the performance and character of Data in this show, in this season, because he does seem familiar but different, and him trying to process emotions seems to be very difficult, especially we get the extra epilogue at the end with him and Deanna Troi trying to counsel him through his feelings of what he's going through, and it seems like he's having a really hard time processing. So maybe he's going into the superlatives I absolutely hate them, but he just doesn't really know how to handle that emotion when it's so strong.
I think the way I mean it's essentially the same thing, but I think the way I thought of it was more, he's like a child who's feeling hate for the first time because he's never felt it before. So he doesn't know how to mute it or tackle it with rationale, even though all he is logic. Well, that's what he was before. So he's feeling this passionate feeling for the first time.
Yeah, and I think it's also after. I think it's after when he's been told he can't go on the away mission, and he looks so disappointed, kind of like a disappointed child, where he's like, "You mean I can't go with you?" He looks betrayed.
Yeah. admittedly, there's maybe an argument that the one with the super strength should probably go to help fight the Borg, but you know.
Yeah, but I also like the idea that Data's always been the pilot, and you know, he's the one who can make those calculations. I assume he still can, even with his more human body, but mind, I'm not sure. But I
suspect so. Obviously, while this is all going on, we also seen the Titan, Seven and co. taking the bridge back, trapping all the Borged out younglings in the transporter room, and trying to just buy Picard and co. some time to like fix everything by taking on the fleet. Which, you know, there's not much to it, except this idea that like the only other older crew that were there were all people doing like you know, the cook has to be the pilot because you did it a little bit in the academy. You never actually passed any tests or anything, but
yeah. Did you recognize the species?
I did not, no.
Because he kind of had a little bit of a Paclid vibe, which would be interesting if he was like half Paclid, because they were the alien race that were notoriously very stupid. Which I thought would be a fun addition if like in like 30 years there's actually a Paclid in Starfleet, or maybe like a half Paclid or something. I don't know.
Hi, maybe the Federation took some schools to them, you know, brought them some educational material.
Well, they've been the main enemy of Lower Decks, which has been really fun.
Oh, really? Okay. Obviously we have to talk about. We said we're you know, speculating who the big cameo could be. I did not expect to hear a Chekhov at the start.
No.
Obviously it is Walter Koenig, but they did an interesting thing here, which I assume is new. I don't know if this has come up before, but he is playing Chekhov's son, who they've named Anton Chekhov, obviously after Anton Yelkin, who played Chekhov in the newer movies and passed away very young, which I thought was a sweet touch.
Yeah, me too.
So, and I was actually, there was a moment where I heard the voice and went, is that actually Walter Koenig? And then I thought, but is he alive still? And then the thing that confirmed it for me, if it was like just someone who could do a good impression, or if it was actually him, is that I saw on Twitter the writer of the show sitting watching the episode with Chekhov, and I'm like, oh, it's him. Okay, they actually he's alive. He's not dead. Okay.
He's not dead. But I did actually, you know, because we've been watching Babylon 5 and he didn't have his Russian accent, he kind of just sounded like Bester.
He sounded like Bester, yeah. There's some weird fan fiction, I'm sure out there, probably several, where Babylon 5 and Trek are just, you know, in different universe. You know, the way that Trek's got the mirror universe, there's like another universe which is Babylon 5.
I see.
And Chekhov and Bester have probably met in some fan fiction. I guarantee it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. We'll meet Bester, will like read his mind, and he'll just be thinking about, you know, vessels.
That's his one thing.
Nuclear vessels. Anyway, it was an interesting thing to throw in there at the start. The Chekhov's son's the president of the Federation. So
yeah,
very good. Definitely was not expecting that. We were thinking someone else from Next Gen, someone from Deep Space Nine, some Voyager. I mean, obviously we did get one from Voyager, but it was one that we'd already seen, of course.
Always good to see more Tuvok, and this time it was the actual Tuvok.
Yeah. Conveniently, for the sake of this cameo, not everyone the changelings replaced were killed when they were infiltrated.
Yes. So
that's good news. Actually, so I do have like one complaint about the epilogues from a structural point of view. So there's a 1 year time jump in the epilogues, and there was a couple of things that came after the 1 year jump that felt like they should have been before the 1 year jump, and it really stuck out to me. So the two things that stuck out was right after it says 1 year later, you get the scene of Picard, Riker, and I think Geordi shutting down the Enterprise, and I'm like, why is this a year later? Like, why wouldn't this be like right after everything?
Yeah, I don't know.
That felt weird. And then the second one,
maybe they had to do like a parade thing around the galaxy for a little bit.
The second one is the Data and Troy like therapy, where all the jokes about him coming for 5-hour sessions every day and all that happen, is that. So actually, well, that comes before the 1 year gap. Sorry, but so that happens before the 1 year gap, and there's a joke in this scene where she's not really listening to data, she's actually looking at vacation like spots on her tablet, right? And it's whatever, it's fine on its own. But after the 1 year gap, when we get to the bar scene, Riker and Deanna bring up that they're trying to pick a place to go on vacation, and I'm like, wait, this is a year later?
They still haven't done it.
And you're still looking at the same 3 or 4 locations?
Yeah, Orlando.
Like,
I'm glad they clean up Orlando in the future.
I don't know. There was a couple of weird things where it felt like most of this stuff, like the one thing that made sense to be a year later was obviously Jack's, like, you know, posting, like him going to what was the Titan and has now been referred to as the Enterprise G.
Well, yeah, awesome gangster name for the Enterprise, but also I thought they were going to name it Picard.
So did I.
They were like the USS Picard, and I that's what I was prepared for, and I would have liked that.
Yeah, I thought they were going to call it Picard as well. It was an actual swerve when it was just the Enterprise G, to be honest.
Did the Enterprise F get destroyed right away? From the last episode?
The F?
Yeah, I guess so, because they would only have one Enterprise in commission. So the Enterprise F was revealed at Federation Day or whatever.
I guess so, yeah. Yeah.
So it must have been destroyed.
There's a little joke here with Worf about or it was the last episode about the E.
Yeah.
The he destroyed, yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what happened to the F. I just assumed this was something I haven't seen yet.
Now the F came out during the Federation Day, but right before the Borg attacked.
Yeah.
Yeah, it must have been because Shelby was on it, right? Because she was like, "Here's the reveal of our new Enterprise."
That's right.
And she doesn't make it,
yeah.
so yeah, they must have killed it.
Oh well.
I don't know. I would have liked to. I mean, I enjoyed Enterprise Gangster. That's awesome, but like, I would have liked the Picard. That's what I was anticipating. I was almost disappointed.
Yeah.
Which is silly, you know, like Enterprise works too.
That said, if this is setting up a new show, and it feels like it is given the mid-credit scene, if it was called the Picard, like, you couldn't name the show after. I mean, I don't think they're going to call it Star Trek Enterprise anyway, because there's already been an Enterprise.
You could call it Picard Season 4.
They're not going to call it that. They're not. Like, it will be a new show, but yeah, it does, like, they make a point of setting up this new status quo where this Enterprise G has 7 of 9 as captain, Raffi as first officer, Jack as, what was the title, liaison to the captain?
I think he's just the captain's counselor.
Counselor, okay. So he's Troy?
Special counsel to the, not counselor, special counsel to the captain.
I was going to say, he's the Troy of this ship? That's a bit of a weird...
Assistant to the regional manager.
But that's the thing, I was saying earlier this season, he felt like he had the charisma to lead a show. Mm-hmm. And I think he had this joke in this scene here where he walked in and acted like he was the captain, and I'm like, you know what, that's foreshadowing. Like, give it a couple of seasons of another show and he will actually be barking those orders out. Plus we get to keep young LaForge, Sydney, as well,
who
honestly
appears to be dating him now based on the dialogue.
Oh yeah, because she says she always ignores what he says. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, the only downside to all of this, because I like all of this, is that Raffi's still there. Like, that's the only bad part of this.
I liked Raffi this season, so like I'm not disappointed by that.
Which they do wrap up her family shit though. She's going to get her meet her grandson.
Yeah, they had to do it. Granddaughter.
I mean, I forgot.
It's her son. Yeah, it's her son's daughter. Yeah.
This is how little I care about this.
You know, when the show was first starting, I was watching like episode 2 or 3 with my roommate, and I was like, man, why does Picard have to have a son? Like, this is so dumb. And they said, well, that way they can do another show with a Picard in it, obviously. And I went, you're dumb. That's not gonna happen. But it turns out they were right. Well, nothing's been announced officially, but man, it sure seems that way.
That mid-credit scene is intent. That mid-credit scene where Q shows up, which he's not dead,
by the way, Q's alive.
Q shows up and he's like, your story...
What was the point of season 2? There wasn't one.
There wasn't one. Q shows up and says, your story, Jack, is just beginning. And
it's only the beginning.
If that's not a giant neon sign saying we're going to do this new Enterprise show with this crew, which when you look at the crew that they've assembled for this on the ship, I'm sure there'll be a couple of new faces as well if an actual show does get greenlit. But if you look at the crew that's here, it's other than Seven, who of course is a legacy character from Deep Space Nine, but she's notably from a later show and she was much younger than the rest of the cast at that time, right? Compared to Next Gen.
And she's a fan favorite.
Yeah. So notably, even though she's a legacy cast member, she's definitely younger and probably game for a good few more years of being a Trek character than the other actors are, who are all really pushing the age now.
I'm all on board for Captain Seven.
But you look at the other characters and they're all new. Jack, Sydney, and Raffi. I mean, Raffi, yeah, it feels like she's been around for a while now because she was on 3 seasons of Picard, but like, now I look back at this season, I think, they gave as much time to Sydney as they did and made us like her a little bit as a supporting character, because now it's like, oh, now she's like one of the ensemble in a new show. That actually makes a lot of sense to me. This feels very intentional, like this makeup of who this cast are. All you need is another couple of regulars. You throw in a doctor, throw in someone else, and you've got your crew. You've got your Star Trek modern Enterprise show that'll be set after all the later series.
Mm-hmm.
So, it feels like that's what they want to do. They've not announced anything yet, but I mean, if you were betting, I would say, yeah, put your savings on it. Who knows what it'll be called?
I mean, I'll watch it, especially if it's the same like showrunner for this season. I feel kind of. You would think like maybe we're in pretty good hands if that's the case.
Star Trek Jack. No, they're not gonna call it that. That'd be terrible.
Star Trek Jack. Enterprise Gangsta.
Star Trek 7 of Jack. No.
No.
No, I don't have a title for you. I'm sure they'll come up with something.
Well, Discovery's canceled. We have one other show that's been announced, and Section 31 is now a movie instead of a series. So maybe those funds will go to this whatever this show is.
Very possibly, yes. I suspect that's a movie now because Michelle Yeoh's too big to keep down for a TV show.
Probably. I mean, she wasn't like not big before, but obviously
but she just was in an Oscar-winning movie, or star cred just shot up dramatically. Like,
she was always a big get, I thought, for Discovery anyway.
Well, which is
why when she died in like the first episode, I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. she was recurring. She was surprisingly in like almost every episode of season 2 though, which was a big deal at the time.
Yeah.
For as rocky as Discovery.
Well, I mean, she's gone on record saying that she loves doing Star Trek. She loves the role, so like it could just be that she has a good relationship with all those people and just likes doing it.
Yeah, but she's too busy now.
And maybe feels like she wants to give back to CBS or Paramount or whatever.
Well, yeah, but I think the reason why it's a movie and not a show is because she's too busy. She's too in demand. She's got too many projects flying at her probably at this point.
Yeah. I don't know how the contracts work because I mean they announced the Section 31 thing a while ago.
Oh yeah, it was like 4 years ago now at this point they announced it. So but no, I suspect that this is another show of some kind that they want to do. Whether or not they'll get the green light, it may already be internally green lit and just not announced. That's entirely possible. But I mean, given that they brought in a new showrunner for this final season, and while I don't, like we've sat here and said that this final is serviceable and works well enough, but isn't like spectacular. Like, it's not like the showrunner is amazing by any means, but he's certainly amazing compared to those first 2 seasons.
I mean, he did a pretty good job at salvaging Picard's reputation, honestly, and like giving us a season 8 of TNG. That was also pretty satisfying.
It is interesting though to see what he could maybe do with a relatively clean slate with mostly new characters, and just be like, okay, this is his story now. He can do what he wants. Here's your young cast, and he effectively created Jack. I mean, I don't know if he was literally the writer who did it, but like under his watch, Jack and Sydney were created. So,
and they're both 2 characters I ended up really liking, especially Jack. Like, Jack's been pretty angsty and angry throughout the most of the season, but like I like the way his attitude is at the end of this episode. So like, not that I didn't like him before, I thought he was interesting, but I want to see this side of Jack that's not weighed down by so much pressure and like anxiety and stuff like that.
Well,
Like I think it'll be interesting.
I was on the record that I hated the sun thing when they first revealed it, and I still, I'm not necessarily in love with it even at the end, but what I will say is, like, Jack always felt like he had the charisma to be a solid character, and I think when he started to shine is when he started interacting with characters like Sydney, because all of a sudden it wasn't the dad drama anymore, it was just him with someone else of his own age that you could bounce off of.
I'm under threat constantly, so I have this nervousness. It's like, I kind of like this girl, so I'm going to be about to try to like have a conversation. And it felt real and nice. Like, yeah, there's other sides to it. We enjoy exploring that. So yes, but I look forward to getting more Jack Crusher if that's the case.
I think Jack and Sydney, I wouldn't specifically put it on him either. Honestly, it's everyone but Raffi.
Yeah, we know you don't like Raffi.
I mean, maybe under better writing, but the melodramatic acting in the previous storylines that she's had have been...
I mean, I think she was fine in this season. I especially liked her paired with Worf. I thought they worked really well together. Worf, after this episode, is still my favorite. Still love him.
Sure. Yeah, he's got his axe with a hidden phaser in it. Riker's pissed off that he didn't just whip that out right away.
I love that Riker goes to pick up the Klingon sword, and it's like so much more heavy than I thought. That was funny.
Or Riker's just old. Maybe he could have picked this up in his prime. No,
probably in his prime. Yeah.
No, he's like, I'm an old man. My back's gone. Oh dear. So, yeah. I mean, the very obvious setup for a new show was very blatant here, but not in a way that was unwelcome, I would say, because these new characters have been relatively quite likable, and I would like to see more of most of them. So that's very nice. It's just a shame that Shaw did not survive to also be around. But then Seven wouldn't be captain, and that's clearly, like, that's their big get. That's your star of the show, is you have Seven as the captain.
He could quit Starfleet after this. He could be like, you know what? I'm going to retire. Orlando sounds nice.
Oh yeah, if he didn't die, I get what you mean. Yeah. Obviously, we see he recommends her for captain. We get this recording that gets played. I know you were a fan of this scene.
I was, and it's nice that it happened before everything went down. Like, this was before essentially the mutiny happened, right? And she went with Picard and Riker's recommendation to go to this other place. So like, he always had respect for her, He just had, on the bridge, he just had a different persona. Yeah. And she's ready to quit until she hears the message. And then Tuvok's like, well, she thinks she's going to get let go anyway. She's like, I know. I'm not good at rules.
Yeah. So she is captain. But like I said, that's your big get. That's your star of this new show, is you have Seven as the captain. She's the legacy character who can sort of like be the bridge for all these new younger characters that can hopefully win people over.
I really liked her when she was on, the bridge of the Titan and fulfilling the role of captain and getting these people who aren't, in their normal positions on the bridge, and like getting them motivated to be like, no, you're effing Starfleet. Like, you sit there and you're going to pilot the ship because you do know how.
Yeah, they do. Honestly, if anything, if there's a slight complaint to be had here, is that they do shockingly well given this ragtag group of amateurs in these roles.
They do great. But like you were saying before, like, where are all the 30-year-olds? Well, here they are. At least we got to see them,
Yeah. Apparently, no one under 25 or no one over 25 was in any important roles on this ship.
Well, why would they be? They would be like ensigns, maybe Lieutenant JG.
What, the over 25s?
No, the under. Oh, I thought that's what you said.
No, I'm saying the over 25. Like, what? Surely all the important roles would be people who have been there and had experience and have ranked up a little bit, and they'd be over 25. No?
Yeah, they probably put the young officers in the more dangerous roles.
What, on the bridge surrounding the captain? That's the dangerous roles?
Well, I mean, that is the way it works on a real ship, on a Navy ship.
Fine. I'll yield. I'm just saying it's a little bit funny. All of the important positions, like none of them were people who were over 25. That's a bit weird.
Well, not every important position is on the bridge.
Okay, sure. Sure. Fine. We'll move on. So yeah, the Enterprise crew, I should say the TNG crew is what I mean. Get their final send off in the bar, playing cards. You know, and the closing titles play as the main theme plays as the camera just kind of spins above them as they're playing cards, and that sends them off.
It's I mean, you haven't finished TNG, but it is very similar ending to the ending of the TNG series.
I know.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I know how it ends. So
how all good things end?
Mm-hmm. Not the plot, just the final scene.
Oh, whatever. It's just a sweet send off. It's not really all that important.
Yeah, so it ends with them all being happy and playing cards, and it's kind of the happy send-off. I think, it is a shame that the Changeling stuff ended up mostly just being like a fun red herring. Like, it was, like, the Changelings were so unimportant, really, by the end game, to the point where the only real mention they got this episode was like, oh, after we removed all of the Borg code from everyone, there was a couple of Changelings left. We dealt with them. Like that was the extent of it.
Yeah, so Crusher is now in charge of Starfleet medical branch or whatever, and it has developed a more of an accurate scanning system for transporters. So when someone's a changeling when they transport. And we see a guy get arrested. Well,
which is fine, but I guess it's one of the complaints of the season as a whole, if you look at it, is that it was at its best when it started to go into this changeling path, and I was like, oh, this is quite interesting what they're doing here. And I think thematically what they did with the Borg at the end was perfectly suitable for the characters and what they were doing.
Totally.
But it would have been nice to transition to that earlier, or make it feel like the changelings were still important to the overall, because at the end it just kind of felt like the changelings were just they were just patsies for the Borg Queen. That's all it was the whole time.
Yeah, pretty much. The Borg Queen looked pretty cool in this. I liked her more Giger design, where she's built into the walls, and she's been rebuilt as best as they can remember how, and she's got more tubes in her face and stuff. I don't know. She looked really creepy and cool.
Yeah. Picard should have been like, "Where's Jeri Borg? I've got Borg friends now. Where's she?
Are you guys Are you guys girlfriends? Do you guys talk or?"
Yeah, that was the things the Borg cube. Obviously they blow it up and they're like, "Oh, finally the end of the Borg," and I'm like, "Bullshit! It is." The writers will avoid doing it for a while, but I bet you season 2 or 3 of this Jack 7 and 9 show, there's going to be a Borg story.
I think the Borg have been pretty played out, and I am ready to end it. We can have ex-Borgs, and that would be it.
But I promise you they will cave. The temptation to do a Borg story will be too great, and they'll do it. It'll happen.
Okay.
Your roommate predicted they want to do a new show. I even kind of started to go down to that line of thinking as it was going on, when I was talking about him being captain material, and he's got the Kirk charm and all the rest of it. I told you the Enterprise would be back. I told you Data would be back. I'm telling you, the Borg are going to be back.
Okay.
And this isn't storyline analysis. This isn't writing analysis. This is pure jaded cynicism. Okay, this is how I predicted these things. Not writing deconstruction.
Yes, but I mean, to be fair, all the things that you did predict that were in the show were kind of satisfying. They weren't they're eye-rolly from if you just from a checklist perspective, we got to get this, and this. But the way that it was done, it was kind of satisfying.
Yeah, well, to an extent, it definitely could have been much worse. I'll absolutely say that. It definitely could have been. So, It was perfectly satisfying. Like, I think obviously the season peaked in the middle when it kind of got good, and we were surprised at how good it was for like a couple of episodes, and then it sort of dipped down into like, you know, better than the show had ever been before those two good episodes, but just, you know, not great either. Just, you know, good. There's enough things to like. I'm not mad I watched this season, which is an achievement in and of itself, because I was furious about the first two seasons when I finished them. So.
Now everyone can retire from acting.
Yeah, just go rest, everyone. You've earned it. You've earned your rest.
Yeah. Go shop at Erewhon. It's where I saw Gates McFadden.
Well, I suppose I was expecting maybe Ghost Wesley to show up and help them.
I also was expecting a Wesley.
It never happened.
It's kind of bullshit, actually. I'm a little disappointed about it, because also, like, it looks bad on his character that he can travel through time and space and hasn't checked in with his mom.
You know, maybe when Picard's in the collective talking to Jack, trying to convince him, maybe Wesley materializes next to him and goes, "Hey, you've got a brother too, Jack. I'm here for you. I'm
here for you." In his Ready Room style? Yeah, right. My brother's such a dork.
Yeah, it's probably good that he didn't. He'd have wanted to stay in the collective. He'd be like, screw humanity. If that's what I'm going, if that's what I'm leaving this connected world to go back to, nah, I'm staying in here with my ones and zeros. You can rely on the ones and zeros. They won't let you down like Wesley Crusher.
Well, yeah, I don't know if there's anything else I predicted that didn't happen or did happen. I don't know. But I liked some of the character moments we get. Like I really enjoyed Riker and Troy's relationship in this. Like, it felt very real, and like they really, you know, love each other, have a lot of love for each other. And obviously we know all the history between those two, so it was nice that they had a happy ending that made sense and was, you know, it was just sweet. I really liked those two together on screen, and I don't know, everyone just felt right in this season.
There was a moment,
even the Data, even though he's different, like, I'm just so happy to see him as a human, like, you know, and it works.
On the Troy and Riker stuff, there was a moment where when Riker says he can't leave, he has to go after Picard, it cuts to Troy's reaction to him saying that, and it's like this look of dread, like, oh shit, like, I want him to beam off now so he'll be safe, but he's going to go and put himself in danger. And she understands why he's going to do it, but she still, like, feels the pain of, like, the danger of him saying that and making that choice. Yeah, it was a good little moment.
And I love that Troy was very helpful in this episode. Like, she sat in that chair and she says, I know where they are, and saves all of them, essentially. You know, she saves her husband and she saves Captain and everybody. So, you know, I love that she got to be useful.
There's a first time for everything.
Yeah. I think that was there on purpose, because, you know, so many times she's just completely useless, but she's there to look pretty. And she's sitting in the chair this time and she says, I know how to help. And it works. So it's wonderful.
Only took 7 seasons, 4 movies, and then a reunion show 25 years later to finally...
Yeah, I think the writers know what they were doing with that.
To finally have her be helpful.
And it doesn't seem like, you know, that Crusher, Beverly and Picard are together or anything. They just, you know, they have their own separate lives. And it would be so obvious to give Beverly, like, this longing for Jean-Luc's love, because that was always her episode.
I'm not mad that we didn't do this. In fact, it would probably feel weird to, like, do this in this episode and take away from the Next Gen crew. But from, like, a pure objective writing perspective, it is kind of weird how we don't see Picard go back to Irish Romulan lady, because that's who he's supposed to be spending his time with. I was
thinking that too, actually. Like... No mention of her even.
But it's an admission though to the audience that, like, they know we don't give a shit about her and, like, that relationship. Yeah. Like, we don't care about it. So it's just sort of like they read it out as quickly as they could back in episode 1. Like, she like let him go. Like, yeah, you've got to go do this, Picard. I'll be waiting for you. And I thought, there'll be one quick shot at the end of the the finale of him like hugging her, when he gets back or something. But nothing. Not even a mention. Not even a quick glimpse. Just, we don't care about that. We care about the next gen crew being together, and they're right. But that's what we do care about. But
it is.
It's one of those little quirks of this comes, and this season comes from a show that we didn't like the previous seasons. We didn't like a lot of the things the previous season set up and did.
It's so strange though, because they were shot like literally back to back. So it's like they read the script for season 2 and they're like, we need to do something about this, but it's too late. We're already committed or something.
Do you know what it feels like? It feels like obviously there's like season 3. I think was always going to be the proper next generation reunion. Right, that was always going to be the case. It was too obvious to do it and not pass up the opportunity. And I think, like, it's weird to say season 1 and 2 were just kind of filler until they got to the thing they wanted to do. Maybe part of it is
they were pointless, honestly.
And maybe part of it as well is like, okay, they couldn't really get all of the original cast to commit until they could only get them to commit to one season. So season.
It's also like COVID time for season 1. And season 2, right?
I think season 1 was shot before the pandemic.
Oh, okay.
Season 1 was shot before. I think season 2 was shot during, but season 1 was shot before, I think. But yeah, like it's just, it's so weird that like this is the season. It's not perfect. There's faults. There's things to critique, but this is the season that everyone kind of like expected and hoped for in a Picard like comeback show, and it just kind of feels like the first 2 seasons were just like, oh, we want to milk this for as long as possible, so let's do these other things first before we actually do the thing that everyone just wants us to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I just like, I mean, I would not recommend to anyone to watch all 3 seasons. I'd be like, no. All you need to know is that Picard was dying, so they transferred him to a positronic body. Go. That's all you need to know. Just watch season 3. Easy peasy. That's it. So that's all that mattered.
Yep. And he has a hot, young Romulan girlfriend.
Well, relatively speaking, yes.
Relative to him.
Yes.
He's like 120 or something in the show.
And she's a spry 80. So maybe, I don't know.
Great.
I mean, I'm going by Romulan ages here, not obviously the real human age.
Maybe. I mean, Vulcans can live over 200 years, so maybe. Maybe Romulans can too, but that would make sense.
Maybe she's older than Picard. Why are we assuming that Picard's the older one?
You're right.
Maybe Picard's the young stud.
She's robbing the cradle.
Oh, actually, on that subject, the other big tease for the new show is that they didn't let us hear Seven's, let's go line. Her engage or her whatever, like, let's fly. Like, we didn't get it. They cut away. They built up to it and they cut away before she said that.
I don't know why this is such a big deal for Star Trek captains. Like, ever since Discovery.
Well, this is Discovery that's done this. Before this, Picard had his
engage. Like, Janeway always said engage.
Picard had his thing, right? Before that, Kirk didn't really have a catchphrase. Picard just had his thing that he always said, and Discovery decided that like the new captains have to have their own, and it's kind of like bled into the other shows now.
Well, I wouldn't say it's Discovery so much as the J.J. Abrams movie, because Kirk definitely had a line there, and so did Pike in that movie. Pike's was punch it, which is stupid, but it's an action movie, so it's a bunch of punching, I guess. It's more punchy. So I don't know. I kind of blame that and that influence on New Trek.
Sure.
Where all of a sudden, well, this is a thing now, so we're gonna keep that going. But it, nothing really lands. Like, even the stuff they've tried to use for Discovery, like Let's Fly, sounds so dumb. Like, just say engage.
Yeah.
Because Janeway and Picard said engage, so like, why not just keep that going?
I mean,
keep
punch is better than no. It's like, I would say just hit it. would be fine.
Well, that's what Kirk says in the film. He says, "Hit it."
Yeah, that's fine. That makes sense in context to me.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know why they have to have a thing, or just like, I don't know. Start.
There's no drama to
Go.
There's no drama to someone just saying start, Tara. Come on.
Okay, say whatever. Like, on my mark, go. Go. That's good.
I mean, I don't think they have to avoid having a phrase. I just think it's weird that they do this thing where the characters are like, "Oh, what's your phrase going to be? Everyone's got a phrase." I don't like that aspect of it. I have no problem with them actually having a phrase though that comes naturally, whereas you seem to be adverse to them having anything.
Yeah, because I think they're trying to outcool each other or trying to make something land, and I don't think it's necessary. Like, just have the thing that everyone says that makes the most sense. Have it be uniform. Why not?
I hope 7 of 9's phrase is flip it and kick it.
I mean, that's not horrible.
I want something computery since she's part Borg. Initiate propulsion. That's what she should say.
Love it. Perfect. Activate.
Oh, she could borrow from Worf and just say, "Let's make it a threesome."
Yeah. Do you hear yourself?
He just blew himself.
Yes. That was a very Tobias line.
He's a Tobias. That's what Worf is. He's a Tobias. He's a never as well, I bet. I'm willing to.
Oh, there's no way. A man with 2 dicks will always be nude when possible.
But all Klingons have 2 dicks.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's got way too. There's nothing humble about Worf. Are you kidding?
It's not about being humble. It's about, I don't know, sacred, the sacred 2 peni.
Perhaps, but I don't know. I bet Klingons have traditions of like being in a hot pool together or something in the nude. It's traditional. Go with just scalding hot, boiling water before battle or something. All
right, okay. I think we're done. We're going off the deep end here. So this is this has been a review of the final Picard episode. At least it was a while ago. It's devolved into things. Obviously, we talked about the season as a whole a little bit. We talked about kind of Picard as a show, and yeah, basically watch season 3. Don't watch the first 2. They're bad. They're very bad. And also all the possibilities of this new show they're clearly setting up. Whether or not, I mean, maybe it'll not happen. Maybe they'll decide, we're not going to greenlight it. That could possibly happen. But there's clearly an intent in this episode to set up a new show on this new Enterprise with Jack, Seven, Sydney, and Raffi.
I think it'd be pretty hard to ignore like the fan response also, especially after all the negativity of the new shows. That like, come on, this is what we want. I mean, they gave people Strange New Worlds because everyone liked, well, except for me, everybody liked Captain Pike.
Pike's
like,
right.
Let's watch this show. So they made it for us. Pike is not great, but the rest of the show is fine. But yeah, obviously, the fan response has been great for Picard season 3. So like, please, like obviously everybody loves 7 of 9. Give us a 7 of 9 Captain show.
Yeah, well, look forward to late summer, everyone, when we get season 2 of Tara Complains About Pike for 10 episodes.
Hey, maybe they've heard it. Maybe they've heard my complaints. They're like, you know what? Pike really should be more like a captain, and less like everybody's stepdad.
Alright, well, there you go. Picard finale. Let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments. Like, subscribe, all the usual things on YouTube. It helps us out a lot if you do. But of course, you can support all the content over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and help us keep it all coming. And also, if you're a fan of our Babylon 5 discussions, they will be returning now that Picard is done. So look forward to the returning TV movie, I believe is next in Babylon 5, going by release order. in the next week or so. So that is us. That is the show. Thank you very much for joining us. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV. Have you got any vanilla?